Welcome back to Readability. If you didn't know already, this is a kid podcast that's all about reading. Don't know a good book to read? Visit Readability and I'll help you out. Every Saturday, I'll either read, review, or recommend different books just for you. Lay back and listen to this week's episode. Let's get started. I guess I was proven correct. Believe it or not, I can sometimes live up to my word. This week, I'll be reviewing Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo, the second book in the Grisha trilogy. In this novel, we get introduced to some fun and complex characters, as well as a deeper dive into the world of the Grisha. Out of the three, and this may be an unpopular opinion, this was one of my favorites. As you'll see very soon, I just adore this book so much, and Leigh Bardugo. This is one of my most annotated books, having over, I'm pretty sure, 90 tabs. Which wasn't necessary, but I was in the moment. Let me be. I think Ruin Rising actually has more than that. So I hope you're ready, because here we go into this week's episode of Readability. In this continuation of Shadow and Bone, we follow our two main characters, Mal and Alina. We begin our story on the run from the Darkling, as its true intentions are revealed to expand the fold and use Alina and her powers. Alina tries to live her life peacefully with Mal, but unfortunately being the Sun Summoner and the one who could save Ravka isn't helping. We learn more about the privateer Sturmhond and his crew as well in this novel, and it's overall such a fun time and focuses a lot on character. Some basic facts about this book. The author of the novel is Leigh Bardugo. There are 432 pages in the book. The publishing brand is Square Fish, and this is the second edition to the Grisha trilogy. Overall, this novel was such a fun read and time. I enjoyed the characters, which I think was a main focus of the novel. And the more we got to learn about the Grisha and the amplifiers, the more I just was completely immersed into this world. It was amazing. It wasn't perfect, which I get. I understand why some people didn't like it. But I still think it was a great sequel, in my opinion, to the first book in such a popular series. I enjoyed this book more than the first. A little bit. I ate it up in 2 days. I think I'll definitely give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I can definitely see why some people didn't like it. It felt a tad bit slower and, a little forgettable. And that's the other one. And the plot wasn't as juicy. But Nikolai makes it all up. Of course he does. I can understand why some people didn't enjoy this book as much as the first, or even in the entire series. I felt a little underwhelmed at times, but I don't know how to explain it, but I still enjoyed this book so much, and it entertained me to no expense. While yes, we have Alina, the Darkling, Mal, and the characters from the previous novel, we get introduced to one of the most popular and best characters in the entire series. Let's start with the most obvious, Nikolai Landstov. I won't spoil another part that gets revealed about him, but I will say in the next segment. To compare him, he's a lot like Thorn from the Lunar Chronicle series, so if you liked him, you'll love Nikolai and vice versa. He's sarcastic, cocky, and the only difference between him and Thorn is that he's a prince. There was some romance between him and Alina because, of course, the main character is adored by everyone. And honestly, I can kind of admit that I liked it. Nikolai is just great, so I think out of all the love interests she had, Mal, the Darkling, and Nikolai was just overall the best, and just the best person. Who doesn't love him? Really, really quick, and on a related note, Vasily, I think that's pronounced his name. He is Nikolai's brother. He's just so funny to me for some reason. I know we're supposed to find him annoying, and don't get me wrong, he does make me mad and annoyed. But at the same time, I laugh at him so much because he's so annoying and makes the main characters so annoyed. It's just, and also comparing him to Nikolai, it's just hilarious. Early on, around the same time we get introduced to Sturmhond, we meet Tolia and Tamar, the two Heartrender twins that help Alina and Mal in their adventures. Let me tell you, I love these two. I don't know about anyone else, but I feel like people focus more on Tamar than Tolia, which is understandable, but justice for Tolia, he's great too. I can tell you right now, Zoya gets so much better in this novel. From Shadow and Bone, we saw Zoya as this annoying, jealous squalor, which I guess can be true for the most part, but we see more of her character arc and how good of a person she can be in this novel. I think her peak is in the last book, of course, but she can be really funny sometimes. And finally, let's catch up on some of the previous characters. The Darkling is still the villain of the story. Alina and Mal grow closer together. Just why? And Jenya is acting amazing and perfect as always. And yeah, that's a quick summary so far for these characters we're getting introduced to. Time for some fun spoilers. Woohoo! First of all, getting introduced to Sturmhond was the best thing ever. Due to spoilers on the internet, I already knew that this was the famous Nikolai, the prince. But it was interesting seeing him as this pirate. I wasn't expecting it, but it was really entertaining. Here are some quotes. This is when they get, shipwrecked. That's the best way to explain it. Sturmhond sighed and ran a hand over his face, a stranger's face. His chin had lost its pronounced point. His nose was still slightly crooked, but nothing like the busted limp it had been. His hair was no longer ruddy brown, but a dark gold, neatly cut to military length, and those strange, muddy green eyes were now a clear, bright hazel. He looked completely different, but he was unmistakably Sturmhond. And he's handsome, I thought, with a baffling jab of resentment. I know I shouldn't put more quotes, but I just love Nikolai so much that I couldn't help it. He's introducing himself in this quote. He says, "I am Nikolai Landstuff, Major of the 22nd Regiment, soldier of the King's Army, Grand Duke of Udova, and the second son to His Most Royal Majesty, King Alexander III, ruler of the Double Eagle Throne. May his life and reign be long." In the next chapter, he says this. He's also introducing himself again. "Nikolai Landstuff, but please don't make me recite my titles again. It's no fun for anyone, and the only important one is Prince." The final scene of this novel, between Alina and the Darkling, that was kind of insane. I'm not gonna lie. The whole "your power is mine" situation was super intense and very epic. This ends in Alina having some of the Darkling's power, like summoning Shadow, and vice versa. Also, Alina's hair turning white, which would be spoiled for you if you looked up fan art of her, which was a little disappointing, and also what I did. So, when we first got introduced to her in Shadow and Bone, I looked up fan art, and she had white hair, and I was so confused, but now I know. It was also interesting to see the Darkling not be in control of Alina, and instead, she's taking the lead. Finally. And this last one might sound bad, but due to my hatred for Mal, I'm glad that Alina and Mal had some discourse. I don't know. I think it's because I hate Mal. I know I'm not the only one, but still, I'm glad they weren't on the same boat. I don't know. I feel so horrible for saying that. And that's all for today. I hope you enjoy this week's episode of Readability. Talking about one of my all-time favorite books and series of all time is just so much fun, and I'm glad I have the opportunity to do so. I'm not sure what I'm planning to do next because I have a lot of ideas and a lot of books to review, so we'll see. Anyways, thanks for listening, and keep reading, folks. Bye-bye.